Hollywood's really cooked, man. Take a look at the fact that Civil War, a veritable who cares movie, wins a second straight week. There has been nothing so far. There's a couple of films that are out there, okay, don't get me wrong, that have pulled in numbers. Godzilla vs. Kong, or Godzilla X Kong, sorry, they're on the same page. They're no longer fighting each other. Making $500 million worldwide. Okay, Dune 2 closing in on, what, $700 million? That's it. That's it so far. And we're sitting here towards the end of April. There is very little to get excited for. We've seen that with the release schedule being printed at the end of 2023, knowing that the dual strikes that reigned over the past year were definitely going to negatively affect the box office outcomes. And well, I didn't anticipate it would be this bad, right? Because you win the weekend. You win with only $11 million, and it's not like things are going to get better anytime soon. Like, you take a look at the next couple months worth of releases, and okay, cool. You have Zendaya getting put on the spit roast with Challengers coming out. Nobody's going to go see that. And then after that, The Fall Guy. Okay, maybe some people turn out for that. It's got Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling, Aaron Taylor. Like, it's got a decent cast, and I've heard a little bit of hype on that. But is it going to be a blockbuster? Highly doubt it. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. What is that? The third or fourth Planet of the Apes? Reboot movie in that wannabe franchise, and it's been how long since we've seen the previous installment in that? Like, it was I think that was before everything shut down in 2020. Like, it's been a hot second. Shout out to them for not milking a franchise, but there's a difference between predictable release schedule and being so sporadic everybody thinks it's like, did Charlton Heston come back for this one? It's like, it's been that long. And then what? Not Mad Max, Garfield movie at the end of May, so we're like a month out from anything maybe tickling the dial at the box office. And then this will be interesting to see. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence coming back for Bad Boys Not 4, but I thought that was delayed indefinitely after the slap. But that'll be funny to see what the backlash on Will Smith is ultimately going to be on that. But realistically, you have to go what? You have to go until the end of July, and I'll be talking about this more than likely tomorrow with the trailer being released. Well, not tomorrow in so much as Tuesday when the video will come out for that one. But Deadpool and Wolverine, July 26th, that's the big blockbuster of the year, and it's R-rated, and it's not going to be indicative of what Marvel's going to be doing moving forward. This is kind of crazy. We talked about it last week, the box office projections. Oh, hey man, things are looking up, but it's still going to be the worst year for Hollywood since, what, the prior to 2017? And there's nothing that's going to do anything approximating a 9-digit opening weekend for, I'd say, a month? A shot at a month with Mad Max. Potentially. Let's read what we have here. So A24's Civil War is winning the box office skirmish against 3 wide entries with a second weekend of $11.1 million after a $3.25 million Friday and a $4.6 million Saturday. That wins the weekend. What are we doing? That's down 56% of a second frame. Oh my God. Which is a great hold for a movie that provoked a divided audience response with, a B-. Like, I've heard a few reviews on this, and divided, well, that would imply that this thing actually takes a stand. Other than holding up journalists as just the beacon of objectivity, it doesn't really say or set up anything. It's kind of a dud in the grand scheme of things. Like, okay, cool. You like some of the action pieces. Fantastic. But if you like characters over the top of your films, search elsewhere. And he felt it would be more front-loaded with exits like that. A24's trick, they know how to generate a time-in factor. I don't know what that means. I could be out of the loop on that. And sources tell me, kudos, sources say, kudos are due to the marketing team of Gran Retzik and Zoe Bayer. I got to try to stay away from commercials and a lot of advertising. I don't really see too many billboards or any IRL stuff, to be completely honest. Thankfully, my city, Grand Prairie up here in Alberta, we aren't really inundated with all that much targeted marketing like that. Small cities don't normally get hit with stuff like that. But I was seeing a lot of digital ads, even though certain ad blockers and script rewriters are all over tools of the trade. So yeah, it was very well promoted. It's just, it wasn't very good. It was a bad film, from what I'm hearing, and yeah, B- cinema score that normally doesn't reflect well on the holding pattern, but when there's a limited competition and anything else that would elicit a response from an audience already so far in the rear view mirror, you've got an industry that I would say is in trouble, but hey man, they're just reaping exactly what they sowed. Yeah, meanwhile, everything else is largely coming in under its projections, resulting in a blah $68 million weekend. That's tough, man. Not the lowest year to date, but generally an awful number that you don't want to see the overall marketplace at. Yeah, normally you could stomach some of that stuff if you were coming off of like the holiday season in early January. That's normally where you have your all-time lulls, where you got the carryover of a handful of big releases at the end of the year, or I think normally right in the early fall, right before Thanksgiving and all that stuff really kicks off. But your spring and your summertime, when the weather can be a little bit trepidatious and you don't know if it's going to be pouring one minute or if it's going to be cold the next, people go ahead, and at least they used to take some time out of their weekend to go down to the cinema. But when your best fare is Civil War and a horror film that would more or less be better suited in the beginning of the year, where you had some of your slower indie hits, or somewhere tucked in the midst of the summer season. So for it to come out second, this Abigail film, which I hear it's at least reviewing well, 82% certified fresh. Abigail, starring Melissa Barrera, has hit $10 million after a $4 million Friday. $10 million gets you in second place. Now, to be fair, probably didn't cost all that much. Normally, these horror films kind of have a lower budget to begin with, so proportionately, it's probably pretty good for the film. The opening here is a little bit higher than the Radio Silence's Ready or Not at $8 million, which was a Searchlight release that did a 3 times multiple off a B+ cinema score. It will be interesting to see how well that one legs out. Yeah, I'd imagine, given the fact that there's not much competition like we've seen, and especially in the horror niche, if it has a little bit of a good word of mouth, it's probably going to have decent legs. But you know what's missing off of this? The one film that people that normally would drive some attention, would drive some interest to the theater, and that would be the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. And just like Civil War, I did in fact hear a couple of reviews of this, and well, the source material is better, and it's just kind of blah. Henry Cavill's good, but it's just not up to the same type of quality that you're used to when Guy Ritchie is associated to the project, and especially after he just released the Gentleman series, did extremely well on Netflix. It's just perhaps a confluence of things. Like they're also pointing out here that Lionsgate's A- cinema score, 88% post-track, Guy Ritchie directed, mouthful of a title. Yeah, that's a problem, because every time that I reference this film, I have to go back and check, and I have to drive it into my head that it's Ministry, right, of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I understand that's the name of the book, okay, all that jazz, but if you're going to have this big star-studded cast, if you're going to have a recognizable name in the director's chair, wouldn't you try to position your film as best as you possibly can? Well, it really doesn't much matter, right, to be completely honest, given the fact that, before we close this out, okay, Godzilla x Kong ended up squeaking out a little bit better, okay, so it didn't even have a podium finish for its opening weekend, but it's also, and I don't know, like, I don't even know how many people were aware of this film to begin with, outside of just, some tastemakers that were out there that were looking forward to it, because it's like, oh my god, we got a Guy Ritchie film, and it's another opportunity for Henry Cavill to get underneath the shadow of, I don't know, an industry that totally hates him, that nobody has the opportunity, or nobody has taken the opportunity to properly utilize his talents. Like, if anybody's going to, it's gotta be Guy Ritchie, and he didn't. This guy's cursed. He's absolutely cursed. You had Argyle, which was marketed very heavily as being a Henry Cavill film, only to have it revealed that he's only in the film for 7 minutes, and it just ended up being a frumpy follow around Bryce Dallas Howard as she goes from fridge to fridge with a cat in a backpack. Like, what are we doing being one of the biggest bombs of the year? But you also have a film that's going to be going directly to Prime Video very shortly. It had 1 week in the theaters, and it's not even getting an over overseas release because Amazon decided, you know what would be the best thing to do? Put a bunch of money behind this, get a big ensemble cast, okay, get a bunch of recognizable faces, put it out in the theater for 1 week, and then just make it into streaming content. Like, what the hell are you doing? Maybe that's why Alan Ritchson was feeling so emboldened, so goddamn emboldened. And I heard a lot of good things about him, okay? Like, for the different coverage that I've done, the third video in less than a week I've done on this well, I was gonna say poor guy, but that's not even appropriate. He did it all to himself. This idiot, like, I've given the devil his due. He's an intensely talented actor, well suited in the roles that he's cast, and the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is no exception on this one. I hear that he's fantastic. He might end up being the best part of the film, but if nobody's going to go see it, if everybody's just simply going to wait for streaming, wait for Amazon to plunk something on a service that is the biggest drain on their bottom line, what are we doing? MAGA hating Alan Ritchson bombs at the box office. Ungentlemanly Warfare debuts in fourth place with $9 million behind a Civil War, a who cares horror film, and a brain dead monster flick. Like, what are we doing, man? What the hell are we doing? So yeah, without having to go over everything that's there, it was a painfully slow weekend in the theaters. The kind sure to add concern over what thus far has been a down year for Hollywood at the box office. Year to date, ticket sales are down almost 20% compared to last year, according to ComScore. Going into the weekend, Universal Pictures' Abigail, a critically acclaimed R-rated horror film, yes, about the daughter of Dracula, is expected to lead ticket sales. It came in second, $10.2 million in 3,384 theaters, but with only 500 fewer theaters with a much more recognizable cast, The Ministry did considerably worse. Like, good thing it apparently only had a budget of $60 million, meaning that it's not going to be an entirely cataclysmic failure. I'm just saying, the film was probably going to have a bit of an uphill battle, but Alan Ritchson being the most vocal name associated to the film, going out there on the promotional tour before its release, probably didn't end up helping all that much. So I look forward to seeing his next release, seeing how much backlash he continues to get, or if we're just simply looking at the demise of Hollywood in general. This could be one of those rare situations where it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.